Hot takes, get your hot takes here. Romance is dumb. Hot takes, get your hot takes. Baldur's Gate 3 sucks. Hot takes, I say. Squirrel supremacy is the future. Hello, nuts and nerds, and welcome back to A Squirrel Plays. Today we're going to be talking about romance. That's right, this squirrel's gonna slide all up in your DMs. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, so I thought, hey, why not get into this? Now, it's probably no secret that the romance realm of the literary world is quite popular. It's a moneymaker, let me tell you. I'm sure we've seen the memes and heard the horror stories, but that's actually not what I'm going to be getting into today. What we're going to be digging into is the question of whether or not romance is needed in the story you're trying to tell. It seems like a lot of media out there tries to squeeze in a romantic subplot, and I can hardly blame them because we all know sex sells. And explosions. And this has been on my mind a little bit of late because I have noticed what seems to be a rising trend of more in-depth romance in video games.
Your love means everything to me.
And if I'm being honest with you guys and gals, I really don't like it on the video game side of things. But for now, let's just look at some storytelling in general and see if we can figure out when romance is or is not needed. So, question number 1. Can you tell a good story without romance? And I mean none whatsoever. No subplots, no nothing. I recently watched 12 Angry Men, something that has been on my list for a while now that I may or may not have forgotten about. Fantastic movie. It's about 12 men on a jury trying to figure out whether or not somebody is guilty or innocent. Absolutely no need for romance, so there was none. The movie might not have done well on its original opening, but it didn't take long before it was considered a masterpiece and still is to this day. How about the first Alien movie? Apparently, they considered a romantic subplot between Ripley and Dallas, but Ridley decided to cut it out because not only did it not add anything to their characters or the plot itself, it actually took away and detracted from it. What about Big Hero 6? Portals 2. Probably the first one too, but I haven't played that one, so you'll have to tell me. But you get the idea. There's plenty of examples out there of good movies and games, or dare I say it, good storytelling without romance. Shoot, for you TTRPG nerds out there, think about some of the better campaigns you've been in or run yourself. Did romance play a part of it? I feel like it's fairly safe to say probably not, simply because romance at the TTRPG table typically makes things a little bit weird. Not always, but probably more often than not. Does that mean you shouldn't use romance in your story? Of course not. If romance isn't the main focus of the story, as in the entire plotline, then you need to figure out whether having some romance in said story will either lift up and enhance the story you're trying to tell, or take away from it. Does it muddy the waters and add unnecessary complications, or does it build upon what is already there? Does a story about a young man and his trusty steed exploring forbidden lands and hunting down and slaying gigantic beasts of darkness need romance? That's a trick question, because we're going to talk about one of my favorite video games of all time, and that is Shadow of the Colossus. If you haven't played this game, I implore you to stop this video and rectify that issue immediately, because it's a wonderful experience and I'm about to spoil the absolute mess out of the whole thing. So please don't let me take that away from you. Now, on paper, this game is pretty darn simple. Your job is to find and kill 16 beasts called the Colossi. That is the entire game. There's not even any other enemies in the game if I remember right. Find giant, kill giant, rinse and repeat. But why?
Why? Why
Why aren't we liking and subscribing? Why are we killing the giants? Because the character you play as is trying to resurrect his dead lover and essentially making a deal with the devil. The game opens with you crossing over into said forbidden lands, speaking with some kind of dark entity that explains to you he can bring your lover back when you defeat the 16 colossi. We're never really told much else other than she was sacrificed for she had a cursed fate. Beyond that, there's no real exploration of their relationship. We just know that this guy is willing to risk it all and do some very questionable things to make it happen, despite the warning he was given. And then some of the best goddamn gaming experience you ever did play takes place. The story starts us off with the romance and then leaves it at that. Save the Girl, a tale as old as time itself. We don't get flashbacks, we don't get memories, we don't get visions or anything like that where we have to hear them saying, "Oh, I love you so much, you're the world to me." Blah, 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 blah.
Your love means everything to me.
It's just not needed, and it wouldn't have added anything to the experience. Instead, what we do see with each defeated Colossus is our protagonist slowly losing himself. He is gradually becoming the darkness, and you're still willingly moving forward. Without a single line of
Your
"I
love
love
means
you,"
everything to me.
we get to very clearly see how much this woman and this mission to bring her back means to this individual. And once we, the players, start to realize what exactly is happening to our main character here, our heartstrings get a good old tug on them because we know this is going to end badly for the guy. He might bring her back, but will he still be around? Then we get to the end and we see it all fall apart. We see the BBG using the main character as a vessel to take over, so you are now becoming the monster yourself. You've also been discovered, so the people have to come to stop you from undoing the seal that they have made to keep the darkness at bay, but are a little bit late. So they try to kill you, and then seal you away too. Now, the BBG does keep his promise. He brings your girl back. But because he was taking you as a host or whatever, and the other dude sealed you away to keep the beast at bay, you end up being reborn or something. I'm not sure if that's actually you or a whole other person. I don't know. It's a little weird, man, but I loved it. And as the game ends, we see the woman, now resurrected, taking care of you or whoever the newborn is. And to me, that is superior romance storytelling. And I explain all of that to ask you this, or at least those of you that are into romance stories. And I know some folks will probably think I'm a bit of a prude for this, but it is a serious and legitimate question. Is the story you're consuming actually romance? Or is it just a cheap dopamine hit? Is there a story being told, or is it just porn with extra steps? You could have taken a different angle for Shadow of the Colossus. The main character could have been doing all of this simply to protect his kingdom. It could have been about gaining power in order to take revenge on someone. It could have been a quest to reveal that the darkness that was sealed away was actually an innocent person, and the darkness in question is the current king. Lots of different ways you could have done it and still had the same game for the most part. But I think the romance and love angle to launch the story was a terrific choice and made it way more impactful. Because when we're sitting there watching that ending take place on our TV, it hits like a freight train. And that's what you want, right? An ending that just rips your heart out. Don't you just love making your audience cry? No? That's just me? Well, all right then. That cat's out of the bag now. All right, now this is where I would love to wrap all of this up and put a bow on it by making some brilliant point that takes everything I just said and makes sense out of it so you can move forward and know what to do. Unfortunately, either I am an idiot or it just doesn't work that way. And truth be told, I think it's both. See, if there were definite rules to this, or any creative medium for that matter, and I could just say, if you want romance in your story, do X, Y, and Z, then that's what everybody would do. Disney has probably created their own formula for their scripts, which is probably why things have started to blend together and people already forgot what they watched by the time the next thing comes out. Think of it this way. Your creative project is your own Colossus. You're the one that has to take up the sword and not only find the beast, but scale it and bring it down. Writing, for example, when you sit down to write that story, you have no idea what you're up against. You don't know how many rewrites it's going to take, how many scene cuts, how many character cuts, or how many times you're going to have to add new characters and new chapters and new scenes. Pretty daunting task because there's so much of the unknown to deal with. There is no clear or defined path. It's up to you to make one. And when you spend months working on something only to have to cut something major out, or worse, restart the project, that's not the Colossus winning. That's you climbing up the Colossus to find the mark, and if you've played the game before, you know some of the Colossi were a lot bigger than others. Think about how much writing and work went into Alien before they decided to rip out the romance part of it. How much did they have to shift and round and do? I honestly don't know when they decided to rip it out, so I can't answer that. But what we can do, instead of trying to invent a definite way to do things that is essentially an elevator to the top of the Colossus, is look at some other works. Have a read, have a watch, have a listen, and see what does and doesn't resonate with you. Now, you can fall into the critic trap like I talked about in an older video, but if you're just researching for yourself, you'll probably be fine. Next time you're consuming some media, ask yourself if certain things were even needed or why they were even there to begin with. For example, in Starfield, and the quest line was Sarah Morgan in her backstory.
Your love means everything to me.
Did it need the romance angle at all to it? Did that add anything at all to the story, or could you have had the same quest line without it? Was romancing NPCs merely a tag to boost the game's SEO? Baldur's Gate 3. Did it really need all the sex scenes and romance options? Or was it just an erotic dating simulator masquerading as an RPG? Did those scenes or options add anything to the story as a whole, or were they just player rewards and gamification of intimacy? Jurassic World. Did the relationship between Claire and Owen add anything at all to that plot? Could you have made pretty much the same movie without any of that? Or was it just thrown in because they're both hot and sex sells? No matter what the answer is, I think we can all agree that outrunning a T-Rex in high heels was very, very stupid. But anyway, jokes aside, I'm afraid that's all I have for you today. No magical answer to make everything work. If you want to know whether or not romance is adding anything to your story, that's a Colossus you're going to have to climb yourself and find out. Now, let's do a shout out and get the heck out of here. Today's shout out goes to SamCheffin4623, or is it Sam Cheffin? Sam Chafin? Either way, he did a wonderful job of summarizing what I was trying to say in the Bad Story Starters video, and truth be told, it pretty much applies to this video too. So Sam, if you want to just copy and paste your comment, I won't hold it against you. And that's it. I'll catch y'all in the next live stream.